Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters for Anfield Index. This season draws ever closer, and last night Liverpool played not one but two games. There was talks of agents in the stands, there's talks of players leaving, there's talks of farewells, there's even talks of who might be arriving. I think we've got a fair guess who we'll be referring to then. What is for certain? We will predominantly be talking about the football and, of course, all the other things off the pitch. But here to join me as ever is the renowned and the respected David Lynch. And I suppose for you last night, David, was it, I don't know what the word is, nice to get back to Anfield and actually reporting on football, as it were?
Yeah, definitely. It's the football is much better than the whole transfer thing. As interesting as all that aspect is, and yeah, it's always good to get back into Anfield as well because that's the first time. Well, actually, I was there doing some filming the week on the Friday, but the first time I've been back there since he lifted the title for a match at least. And so yeah, and an interesting one with the back-to-back games as well. Gives you loads to talk about. So that was really nice, and two wins as well. So that's always good as well. So yeah, definitely good to be back there.
There is, I say, so many things to talk about, game one and game two, as we could call it. So we'll get into the Athletic Bilbao games, or Club Athletic, as they prefer to be known. So I suppose looking at the two games and trying to blanket them together a bit, overall, there was plenty of good run-outs, wasn't there? There was a lot of positives from last night.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of getting the minutes they need. I mean, I just think these kind of back-to-back friendlies, I think they're just going to become a feature because it just makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? When you've got such a squad game now and everybody's got to be ready, you know, to only be able to give some of the players 20 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever is not enough really to have them really sharp, especially those who are kind of on the fringes, but you need them to be ready to have an impact in the coming games. So the fact that you can give as many minutes as you want to basically the entire squad is really handy, and Liverpool managed to achieve that. And I thought, you know, in both games as well, you saw some good performances as well. So confidence getting into the players on top of that. So really, really good run-outs. And, you know, in terms of fitness levels, everybody's looking good. Obviously, a couple of absentees, but Liverpool generally in pretty decent shape. And everybody got the minutes that they needed. So hopefully now that Community Shield is coming around quickly, they'll all be ready for that. And then it's straight into the Premier League season as well.
I mean, with it being pre-season, we always talk about not basing too much on the lineup. And you mentioned injuries and absentees, which we'll talk about as well. But when we take a scan of almost the first 11 and who started that against the second 11 and what almost felt like, maybe it's too harsh to say, but the actual starting 11 are the ones who are going to feature, did it feel like almost, barring Alexis McAllister, the second 11 was largely the key crux, or 99% of what we expect to be the main starters this season?
Yeah, I think what you can confidently say is kind of it's going to be the starting 11 for the Community Shield, give or take. Alisson, not sure exactly where he's up to in terms of coming back. So I think that's going to be the starting 11 for the Community Shield because obviously McAllister is not quite there in terms of fitness levels. He's missed a lot of pre-season, so they've got to get him right. So I think it's the strongest 11 they've got at the moment, certainly. So yeah, I think that's pretty nailed down really, and it's up to the likes of McAllister to, you know, finish his pre-season almost and get himself there to push his way into the team, you know, similar with Curtis Jones as well. So, you know, any of those players who weren't quite in that starting 11 need to kind of fight their way into it really. So yeah, this looks like Liverpool's strongest squad, bar those kind of couple of absentees that you touched on as well.
Yeah, it was a really strong squad that started, and talents in both sides, to be fair. I mean, injury worries. We hate talking about these pre-season, but Arne Slot did mention it when he was talking. We're hoping to have VVD and Alisson back for the Community Shield, as you mentioned there. But, I mean, there is a name, and I don't think there was too much surprise from some, but Connor Bradley being injured, it wasn't the best. It's not been the best pre-season again for him this way, has it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the big question mark over him at the moment, isn't it? Is he able to stay fit for us full season? He hasn't quite managed that at Liverpool yet, and it's a big test of him because, I mean, that spot is there to be grabbed if he is able to do that, and he is able to kind of get rid of these little niggles, but he just keep to be, you know, kind of plaguing him at the moment. So fingers crossed. It doesn't sound like anything too serious, so that's quite good. But of course, serious enough to keep him out of yesterday. So we'll see. You feel that Frimpong is going to start that Community Shield now. And I guess, if he does that and he plays well, then it's his shirt to lose, isn't it? And we've seen a lot, very much sticks with that thinking. So, poorly timed really for Bradley. And we'll see how that whole competition at right back plays out from there on in.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be tight for Joe Gomez. And naturally, we will talk about the centre-back positions. But picking out a few players from the other night, I mean, this kid, by the way, who took about a minute and a half to re-announce himself. The last time we were chatting about Rio Ngumoa and saying, we can't get too carried away. You've got to give him a chance. It's getting hard, though, isn't it?
It just keeps doing things, doesn't he, that make you it just make it impossible to kind of play him down or not heap expectation on him. I mean, it's just we're just looking at a truly special young player, aren't we, really? I just genuinely think can have an impact on this season. And I've said before, I think that's the feeling amongst the coaching staff now that he's ready. So, why hold him back? Why block his pathway? So, he's just worthy of that. And, you've got to kind of maybe in your mind put him more in that Raheem Sterling bracket than a normal young player, really. He is just capable of breaking through at the age of 16, 17 and genuinely doing things at first team level. And the strike yesterday, the assist as well. He looked very comfortable at Anfield, didn't he? So I'm sure we're going to see an awful lot of him this season.
It is an interesting one with Ngumoa because a young talent, they've got to safeguard him. And again, but it does feel like almost this conversation maybe changes or reassesses a little bit. They want to safeguard him, but when we talk about is that Chiesa replacement, it feels like he could well get more than 500, 600 minutes potentially next campaign.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think you have to acknowledge, and I think the coaching staff are acknowledging this, is that, like I say, we can hold ourselves back as much as you want, and that is the better route with 99.9% of young players. But if you get someone who is a bit of a prodigy and comes through at the age of 16 and shows that they are ready for first team football, and by the way, he's not just doing this in pre-season. The reason he is so heavily involved is because he's been doing this in training for the past year. Yeah. This isn't new. This isn't just kind of, he's had a bit of a lucky purple patch in pre-season, throw him in the team. This is genuinely going on behind the scenes for a long time. So they know how good he is, and he's taken a leap this pre-season that, again, in training has almost surprised them a little bit. But as you say, that is going to add up to way more than just Chiesa minutes next season. I think the domestic cups are an absolute lock for him to play in. And then beyond that, I think, I'd be amazed if he doesn't play in the Premier League and maybe even get sub-appearances in the Champions League as well. Now, that is not going to be 50, 60 starts this season, anywhere close to it, but it will be more than 500 minutes, I'd imagine, if he can stay away from injury. And as I say, you've almost got to kind of change that classification in your head that, yes, you want to protect a 16, 17-year-old, but if you do get a Raheem Sterling, if you do get a Michael Owen, suddenly appears from nowhere, you just have to accept that that's what they are and you have to use them. And as I say, don't block the pathway and make sure that you kind of nurture that and get them in, all the while, being careful about the minutes to a certain degree. So he just looks like someone who's that level, and I will be surprised if we don't see, more than Chiesa minutes, as you say, this season.
It's exciting every time we see him. So a goal and assist last night. See if he gets any minutes in the Community Shield. But as much as that photo's funny, because it looks like Harvey Elliott's a bit peed off that Rio's taking his starlight from what it could be, on the left-hand side, he's kind of being ignored a bit with Ekitike and all the other ones we talk about quite rightly. But Cody Gakpo, I mean, technically, do we say he scored a hat-trick last night? Is that what we're going with?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't think he was claiming the match ball, but yeah. But you're right, really. I spoke about this on my own channel after last night, really, that all the change there, that completely new look attack. You're going to have, obviously, Salah is the star and has always been the star, but you're going to potentially add Isak. You've already got Ekitike. Florian Wirtz is just there behind it and can probably play in that front line as well. No one's really talking about Gakpo, and yet, he's had a good pre-season. He's scored goals. He's looked really sharp. And he's just got a big role opening up for him this season because Diaz isn't there anymore. Ngumoa is going to play minutes, but I don't think it's going to be over 1,000 maybe, or it's not going to be like high level of minutes. So, there's a real opportunity for him to absolutely nail that role down. And I think he's good enough. And I think he's going to have more space to operate in as well because of what is around him. So, he's got so much to like about his game. Brilliant shot on him, pace, power, his height as well that he adds.
Yeah.
So loads to like about him, really. And again, I just think it's going to be a big season for him. He's 26 now. He's entering his peak years. So you want to see the peak version of Cody Gakpo. And I think pre-season suggests that he's ready to show that.
Yeah, he has looked good so far, as of so many, which is great to see. And I suppose the other thing that was interesting, the midfield scenario. I mean, there's been quite a few impressive performances, but the standout for me last night, I thought Dominic Szoboszlai in that 8. I thought he was really good deeper last night.
Yeah, and I think he has been all the way through preseason, really, hasn't he? I just think it suits him down to the ground that he doesn't have to do. You're not asking him to do like Wirtz things where it's like unbelievably tidy touches and like creating chances and really dictating the pace of the play and things like that. He can just be a kind of a runner who arrives late into the box. He's cute enough in his passing, but he's not unbelievable at that aspect. But he's certainly cute enough for an 8. So he can be the best of both worlds. He can be creative. He can be a bit of a destroyer at times. He just for me absolutely tailor made for that role, really. And I think his ability to fire passes through the lines, it makes greater use of his running power as well. So again, his development and the emergence really of how good he is in that 8 role, you're kind of like, how does this all really shake out in the midfield? And I don't know, because everybody else is looking pretty good as well. Nice problem for the managers to have, but it's going to be a kind of a fascinating tale for the season, I think.
Yeah, it is an interesting one for the midfield because, I mean, you mentioned a few there. Florian Wirtz, obviously, is a superstar. We know that. We saw his touch again last night. Alexis McAllister still to come back. Thought Gravenberch had a decent game overall last night as well. Some nice touches. That midfield, I mean, we're not even talking about Curtis Jones. He seems to have almost assumed that squad role. It's going to be so competitive in there next season, isn't it?
Yeah, I just genuinely don't know. I mean, obviously, going into the Community Shield, McAllister probably not going to be ready to start, judging by the 11 yesterday and how many minutes he played. And then the first Premier League game, Gravenberch suspended, so he's not going to be available for that. But then kind of once you get the other side of that and everybody's fit and available, I honestly have no idea what he's going to do, because I just don't see, how do you leave Szoboszlai out in his preseason performances in that 8 role? How do you leave, Gravenberch out when he's the most natural holder and he was brilliant last season, brilliant again last night? And how do you leave McAllister out when he was probably your best midfielder last season? And you can't leave Wirtz out because he cost you 100-odd million. And then Curtis Jones is competing for minutes. Wataru Endo is competing for minutes. It's just absolutely crazy strength and depth in that area. And I have no idea what's going to be the strongest 11 or the strongest starting midfield when you 10 games in or so.
It is something that, and again, we'll see if anything develops it in that area transfer-wise at the same time. And I suppose the only other player that may be a bit of a surprise, because we saw brilliant flashes from Ekitike, didn't we, for the assist? Mo Salah gets a good goal, plays some brilliant passes. Horrendous penalty, but at least he's got that out of the way in pre-season again. Trey Ione, really quiet, really unassuming. Didn't expect to see him start at centre-back, but another good, solid performance from the kid, wasn't it?
Yeah, it just feels like it says a lot that they trusted him to do that as well, because, it's so easy. And we've got a kid to just kind of protect them, put them in the easier position for them, and then maybe use one of your senior players as a centre half as well. But he just so composed in there. A couple of passes early doors that you can't be playing those as a centre half, but I think he quickly learned. And then from there on in, very, very composed. And, a bit of defending where he's kind of in a 2v1 situation. It was very, very intelligent bit of play there. He's just a clever player. And he's not kind of, Engamo has been standing out with the goals and the assists and the dribbling. It's so exciting. But I think Leone's been quietly very, very impressive in this preseason. And again, he's got a bit of a problem there in that midfield is ridiculously stacked. So, can he find enough minutes this season? But I hope so, because I think he's a fabulous young player.
Yeah, it'll be a tough one for him to get the minutes he's probably looking for. It'll be interesting to see what slots got plotted, but so many good performances across the board, which is pleasing to see.